this is the fourth best team in that division, right? I mean, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, miles ahead. And I don't even think it's because of their personnel. The Bears have the fourth best coaching staff in the division. They might have the fifth or sixth best head coach in that division because Ben Johnson's going to get another head coaching job. Brian Flores is going to get another head coaching job, and they're both going to be better than Matt Eberflus. So the Bears have like the sixth best head coach in that division.
What you heard was a proclamation made on this very podcast last season. Take a guess as to what part of the season we were in when Samir said that. If you guess week 3, you are correct. Things were terrible early. Now, things have drastically changed since then, and as the horses stand on their marks at the starting line, we wanted to take a look at all the other teams in the NFC North and see where everyone stacks up. So, what's been going on in the rest of the NFC North?
Man, who was that angry guy?
That man was full of juice, man.
Oh, I remember that episode. Sixth best horse in a 4-horse race. I can't believe that was only like week 3.
Week 3
and we basically saw it, right? Me and you saw the writing on the wall. Like, this is not a competent coaching staff. Like, Waldron, I think I said he hadn't figured it out. He'd be gone by week 9. Eberflus be gone by week 11 or whatever. And then I did say Johnson would get another head coaching job. I said Flores would get one too. I don't know if he had any interviews, but he's still with the Vikings. But obviously Ben Johnson did get a head coaching job.
Yeah.
And he was one of the head coaches that were better than our head coach last year that I had counted. So made some improvements there. Man, I really need to go back and listen to some of the more depressing episodes, I think. I think we need to ground ourselves because we've been like kind of a little too happy. I think the last couple of weeks. We need to go back and listen to some of the downers. We got to ground ourselves.
Floating, dude.
That's what I took away from it.
Stay grounded, huh?
We gotta stay humble, man. We gotta sit down and be humble. But let's. I got positive things to say. You know, the rest of the division has as many, if not more, question marks, right, than the Bears. Let's start with the Lions, the team that won the division, the kind of the perennial favorite to repeat as division winners. They got one of the hardest schedules in the league, harder than the Bears, who everybody says has a really tough schedule. They lost both of their coordinators, right? We obviously took one, Ben Johnson, and their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, went to the Jets. So they lost both coordinators. And I think they promoted their replacements in-house, which I don't know. I feel like sometimes that's good and bad, right? Like, you're never going to be able to replicate what that guy did. I mean, you're trying to keep continuity, but there's probably was a better candidate out there that you could have had.
Yeah.
So they had to replace both the coordinators. And then Frank Ragnow, who is like all-pro center, retires at 29. And then they lost their other interior lineman, Kevin Steitler, to the Tennessee Titans. So they're going to have 2 new starters on the inside of that offensive line. And, you know, for a team that was their strength, I'm not 100% sure what their depth is, but those are some big things and challenges that they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, I was wondering too, like, you know, the head coach is consistent, the culture is consistent, a lot of the, you know, some of the offensive guys are consistent, but I mean, that's a big, I mean, if we, you know, we've been really talking about Ben Johnson being this fucking offensive genius, this like mastermind. And so if you lose that, I mean, there's gonna be something, I mean, they're probably gonna look different in a little bit, but I guess he's shown how that team can be successful. So I guess the person coming in can kind of run similar that style. But yeah, it seems bigger than maybe because I think they're still considered like the people like projected to win the division, right?
They are.
Yeah.
They're projected at their over-under is 10.5 wins, which is the highest in the division. But if you look at it, Green Bay's at 9.5, Chicago's at 8.5, Minnesota's at 8.5. They really do. Vegas really expects it to be a tight division race. They're all within a couple games of each other. But
Yeah.
Detroit is the favorite to win the division, despite having the toughest schedule of the 4 teams in the division. Because they lost Ragnar, but they're bringing a lot of their same personnel back. They still have 2 great running backs. They still have great pass catchers. Goff is, very serviceable. To some people would say very good.
Yeah.
How they're going to do without their guru offensive coordinator, we'll see. But Dan Campbell, he's a culture guy. He's gonna keep those guys motivated. He's gonna know the right things to say and do. It's just a matter of can he replace his coordinators with competent people to kind of help with the scheming and the X's and O's stuff.
And I guess the assumption is that these players who have worked under Ben Johnson and succeeded and seen what success looks like, have a good frame for what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And so, I mean, they're coming from
They know how to win, right?
Yeah.
So you don't just forget that, all these players, they know how to win with each other. They know how to play with each other. There's going to be some of that. And, can they keep that going, without having somebody like Ben, drop plays and schemes for them.
What do you think the loss of Aaron Glenn means for their defense?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, they've got they lost a cornerback as well. When Carlton Davis III went to the Patriots, he's a good cornerback, but they still have a very, very good defense. And they're also going to get Aiden Hutchinson back, who they lost to a season-ending injury last year. Now, it might take him couple weeks to get back up to game speed, but he's an all-world player. They have a great safety duo. They've got great interior pass rush. Their defense has good personnel. So I think their defense will actually be fine. I'm actually a little bit more worried about their offense than their defense.
Yeah. Yeah, we play them week 2, so I guess we'll see it pretty early how they look.
Yep.
As they're still trying to figure it out, we're trying to figure it out. Everyone's still in the we don't
It
really know
is.
who we are yet phase.
Yeah, because nobody plays preseason anymore. It used to be that was kind of your tune-up, but the CBA rules and nobody wants to get injured. No starters really ever play the preseason anymore. So now you treat that first 4 weeks of the season, 3-4 weeks of the season as kind of like your preseason, where you're kind of doing things and trying stuff out, see who goes where. But then come early October, you really need to understand your groupings and what you're trying to do and understand your identity as a team, right? Maybe you thought you were going to be a running team and you found out your interior offensive line isn't as good as you thought, and you're
Yeah.
Okay, we're a bubble screen team now, so it's a lot of that, figuring that stuff out early.
That listening to that clip and just kind of reflecting on last season, it became very clear to me the sort of strong hesitancy concerns going into the season. We're talking about the first couple games being the preseason, we're trying to figure it out, but that you were pretty hot, and it's pretty clear that most, that's I think where a lot of Bears fans and watchers were. It's we fucking knew this is what the problem was, and now we're seeing it, and we got a little tricked by Hard Knocks because they looked good, and he had a nice haircut and all that stupid shit.
Fucking
but it's
haircut. Fucking haircut got everybody.
Okay, talk to us about the Vikings and maybe where they're at and what their team looks like.
So the Vikings have a very good roster on paper. Actually, Kwesi, who just their general manager, and he just got a contract extension. He had a pretty good offseason. He solidified the offensive line and the defensive line. They added a bunch of veterans on both sides. They've already got great skill players, with Aaron Jones and Addison and obviously Justin Jefferson. So they're pretty loaded. Their defense is okay. But I think that really it comes down to obviously JJ McCarthy. Sam Darnold put up a 14-win season for them, and then he turned into a pumpkin come playoff time. What are they going to get out of JJ McCarthy? Are they going to get a Sam Darnold type season? I don't know. He didn't play at all. He hasn't taken any regular season snaps. He took a couple in the preseason. At Michigan, he wasn't asked to throw a ton. I think he only had one game where he threw for more than 30 yards or more than 30 pass attempts. So he's a lot of handing the ball off, game control, game management, which is fine, right? Like you look at Brock Purdy, for example, with the Niners, right? He just lets his team do a lot of it, right? He's not trying to be a superhero out there, and he's good enough at processing the defense, not making mistakes, playing within his team and his skill set. The Niners, they're perennial contenders. They went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Can JJ McCarthy be like that for the Vikings? Because they have a lot of those pieces around there. Now, I don't think they're as talented on the defensive side of the ball as the Niners are, but they've got some. I mean, they got Dallas Turner, who they drafted in the first round last year. I think they've got Bullard, I think, is the other pass rusher. So they've got some pieces there, but Minnesota's an interesting team. I think it really kind of comes down to how JJ McCarthy handles the NFL game speed. And Kevin O'Connell will do his best to scheme him up because he's a pretty good, play caller and offensive coach.
Yeah, and the coach Caleb Williams kind of like connected with and wanted. But I guess just more like now that's it's a lot of good coaches in this division really, which
There
that
are.
can presumably that can maybe cover up some of the challenges and issues. Obviously there's the players on the field and their level of talent is a limiting factor, but a good coach
And they're all offensive coaches. In the division, all four guys are offensive coaches. Three of them are play callers and schemers, and Dan's more of like a culture tough guy, but they're all offensive backgrounded guys.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it'll be, that's game one. So, it'll be right out the gates to get to see like what that kid does.
And Caleb, the last two games he had against Brian Flores, he played pretty well. I think he had like 5 touchdowns and 0 picks, and averaged around 300 yards or maybe a little less per game. So
Yeah.
he did pretty good against the blitzes that Flores was throwing at him. So hopefully that continues.
What was he doing well against the blitz? Was it
Just getting the ball out quick,
Yeah.
recognizing where it's coming from, exploiting it.
Hopefully with new line, more sort of newer coaches and stuff, maybe we can.
And that was one of the things that Caleb was good at, right? Is like when the game's on the line, when there's less like honestly structure and script is where he excelled. At the beginning of the games, we talked about numerous times on the show, like the first series or two, it's like these guys have never practiced or played together. It's just so dumb. It didn't like look professional at all. And those are the scripted plays that they're like, Shane Waldron's like, yes, we will do this. And it never worked. But then when it's time to play hero ball in the fourth quarter and we need him to put us in a position to win, and he's just going up and hiking it and doing whatever, that's when he would put us in position to win, right? Against the Commanders, against the Packers twice, against the Vikings, it took us to overtime, against the Lions. It's just, that's where he kind of excelled. So if we can get better structure and scheming in the beginning parts of the games with Johnson, I think that, it could be good.
That's actually just as you say, that's a fun thing to like, look out for. It's like how are they starting games and
How are they starting games?
Be good to look at tape once this season starts of like what did last season look like and what does this season
and
look
like what kind of team does Ben Johnson think that they have, right? Like you'll be able to tell based on how he scripts those first couple plays, like what kind of team he thinks he has. What kind of plays are they running? Because maybe he'll try to hit you with some of the best stuff early. One of the things I thought it was interesting when he was talking about offensive line combinations and the tackle spots, because the left tackle that we talked about last week is a little bit up for grabs, or not up for grabs, but there's a camp battle that could happen, right? Between Ozzie Trapillo, Kieran Amagachi, and Braxton Jones. And Ben said that they're going to take the one who pass protects the best. And he's like, that's what we look for in all of our linemen. Who is the better pass protector? He said the run protection is gravy on top of that. But you have to be able to pass protect. That's what he's looking for. The 5 best pass protecting offensive linemen are going to be the ones that play. So could tell you a little bit about he's going to come out slinging, right? Or at least find a way to like get the ball in Caleb's hands more often than not.
Right. Interesting.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about the Packers, who had a fairly big personnel change this morning.
Yes, they cut cornerback Jair Alexander, who was an All-Pro several seasons ago. It's funny because I had Packers fans on X saying how they should include him in a trade for Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. So delusional, and now here he is just cut like on the street, and nobody trading you Myles Garrett for this guy. So yeah, I think he was fine when he played, but he only played 7 games last year. He's missed a ton of time, and he was like, had a large cap number, and so I think they decided to move on. So they're real thin in the secondary. They didn't actually draft a cornerback until like the 6th or 7th round, also. So they don't have a ton of depth there. Now their interior pass rush is pretty good. Sean Gary is a good pass rusher, and they have some disruption there. And then they have a plethora of like wide receivers in terms of like, they don't have like the guy, but they've got a bunch of like 2s and 3s. And so can Jordan Love kind of put it together and, because he's kind of been up and down, this is his 3rd year starting, but he's been with Matt LaFleur for like 4 or 5 years, I guess. So he should know that the system pretty well. It's just a matter of can he go out and execute. So I think the Packers, some people are really high on him. Some people are really low on him. It really depends on how you feel about Jordan Love. He's pretty inconsistent. He has some really good flashes, and a lot of times, honestly, he's just like throwing shit up and seeing what comes down. I feel
Yeah.
like so.
Does like when how do you feel about Jordan Love when he's on, when the Bears are playing him, and of like his capacity to win games, in those like close
Well,
games?
they've beaten us,
Yeah.
several times.
Yeah.
So whatever. It's gonna sound bitter, but I don't think he's very good. I think he's average at best.
Yeah.
So.
Our podcast or our the empathetic Packer fan may have a counterpoint to that, but I'll let you
I
know.
mean, maybe he thinks. I guess for how much they paid him, I don't think he's as good as they paid him.
Mm.
They paid him off of 8 games, and he ended on a heater. And then they paid him, and then he's kind of been up and down. And to be fair, he did hurt himself in the first game of last season, and maybe he wasn't right, throughout the rest of the season. I don't really follow them that closely to know if he if it was just like a nagging injury that was throughout the course of the season. But man, he had some real rough stretches, and he had some really great stretches, right? I think he's just so hot and cold.
Yeah.
That you just like don't know what you're going to get out of him. He's got all the talent in the world. This is gonna piss off your Packers fan, but he kind of reminds me of a a pleasant version of Jay Cutler, who's like got all the talent in the world, hot and cold. He can throw 3 touchdowns, he can throw 4 picks. But just Jay was like just a sourpuss, and Jordan just seems like a nice guy. So that's the difference.
Okay, so as we've talked through these 3 teams and
Mm-hmm.
all the shuffling and changes, I mean, we're in the high point of we're in the ungrounded point of the season currently for our feelings about this team. But where do you feel like the Bears, as we kind of close out today's episode, where do you feel like the Bears are sort of fitting in the mix of all of this where do they?
I think that they can compete for 2nd or 3rd in the division. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. We did our picks for OnTap Sportsnet, and I had them, I think, at 10 wins. And I was like, I had them at 9, and then I switched them to 10 because it was the week 18 in Soldier Field against the Lions, and I put that as a loss. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change that to a win
Yeah.
because it's going to be cold, and Jared Goff's outside. And if the Bears are playing for something, if they're at 9 wins and they're playing for that, I think they'll come motivated, and I think they can get a W to get up to 10. So I changed that to 10 at the last second. So I got them there, which would be over the 8.5 that they're at currently. So I think they could finish somewhere 2nd or 3rd. Honestly, man, this division is so tight. Like, if you told me any of the 4 teams would finish first or any of the 4 teams would finish last, I probably would be like, okay, yeah, you can sell me on a story for that.
Yeah.
Because they're just so, it's not like, the AFC West or the AFC North where you're like, yeah, no, Cleveland is definitely finishing. There's no way Cleveland finishes first, right? I don't feel that about any of these four teams. I don't think there's no way Green Bay could finish first. Minnesota could finish first, right? Like, I don't know. Bears, if everything clicks, there's no reason they can't finish first. So
Yeah, I think ours just seems like, yeah, maybe, I mean, every team has a question mark, but ours is like the one of our, the strength is like the upside of our new
yeah.
coach and the system. And so it's like you really, yeah, if that works,
And
fucking
you know what's
awesome.
funny is like Ben's never been a head coach before, but it's almost like everybody's like, now is Caleb the right guy? Because I think people are just assuming Ben Johnson is going to work as a head coach. They're not saying, oh, I hope we got the head coach and he's the right guy. They're saying, oh man, I hope Caleb is the right guy. Otherwise Ben's going to go out and get his own person, and then we're kind of set back again. But it's almost like, your number one overall pick last year is the biggest or one of the biggest question marks. It's not a terrible spot to be in. Like, we've talked about ad nauseum. He had 20 touchdowns, 6 picks, which is pretty good rookie season, when you look at historically rookie seasons, and he started all 18 games. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
With like dysfunction, right? Four different offensive coordinators during that, or three different offensive coordinators during that year. It's kind of
Yeah.
wild. So, yeah, I think if it might take a little bit to gel, but their only real thing that they didn't address is, well, two, I guess, was an opposite edge rusher. I mean, they signed Dio Adeyingbo, which I guess if you want to call that addressing it, but there wasn't a big swing necessarily taken there. They did pay him some decent money, but they didn't draft anybody, right? Like with that pick to like a solid, like this is your second edge rusher for the future. So that's a little bit of a, let's hope we got that right. And then running back, they drafted somebody out of the 7th round, but he's 7th round for a reason, right? That he's got some limitations, and then they never signed anybody. So are they content with their running back room? Is that enough talent back there? But other than that, I think if, obviously they need folks to stay healthy, but they addressed the interior of the offensive line. They'd added another tackle. There's that third linebacker spot, which is, still up for grabs, but you can find a third linebacker. It's probably one of the easiest positions to honestly backfill if you need to.
Yeah.
But, their secondary room is strong. Brisker's healthy again. So I don't know. Just got to put it together. I don't want to get too high on it. I'll have to go back and listen to some of the depressing episodes just to ground myself.
Yeah, man.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the hope meter on the audacity scale is really, really rising. And as you kind of broke all of this down, it's like, man, it really does, this is obviously off-season delusion, but it really does seem like maybe the first is up for grabs in a way that it wasn't, or, like it's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And another news, Rodgers signed with the Steelers
yes,
today or yesterday. And so he'll be playing in Soldier Field, and that was one of my 3 games to watch. I guess the last time he was in Soldier Field, he broke that record, and then he had that whole "I own you" thing, and so that was the last time Bears fans have seen Rodgers in Soldier Field. So, and this will probably be the last time they see him in Soldier Field ever. So, it'll be a fun game. A lot of trash talk. He's he's that guy you love to hate. I'm gonna miss Rodgers when he's gone because he's such a good competitor, and
yeah,
like he
for
talks
sure.
so much shit. He makes the games fun.
Yeah,
So I'm excited for that. And actually, I think it's Steelers Jets play. I think they're week 1, but then the Steelers and Packers also play. So he'll
damn,
get to play against his former team. And if he beats them, I think he'll be one of 5 quarterbacks that's beaten every single team in the league, which is not necessarily an impressive stat, but I guess kind of a cool one.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
As we close out, any final thoughts?
Well, now that mandatory minicamp is going to start, I would look out for some of those cuts as well that are going to start coming, and some of the holdouts that are going to start lingering.
Mm,
Like your Trey Hendricksons, And actually the Bengals just released a veteran linebacker, Jermaine Pratt. So look for some of these cuts and signings that kind of could shift the tides, right, in a certain division or not. Texans just signed Nick Chubb, so him to the Bears is kind of a dead deal. But just look for some of those veterans becoming available as teams like, they had their rookie mini camps, they had their OTAs, they might be getting a solid feel of like, oh yeah, this young dude can play, or this UDFA is going to take the spot of this like vet, and then one team's trash is another team's treasure. So
Yeah.
yeah, look for some additions. And see what the Bears can come up with.
Hell yeah. Hit us with your where people can find you, new articles, all that good stuff.
Yeah, on TapSportsNet.com. I haven't written one in a little bit. It's been a little slow. I was gonna try to get one today and it never happened. So but I post my stuff there. I post my stuff on my X at SMPatel06, so you can find it in both those locations.
Hell yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Rathor's Neighborhood. For Samir Patel, I'm Chirag Rathod. We are the Bears in the Neighborhood, your weekly insight into the Chicago Bears in under 30 minutes. And we will catch you all next week.
I'm sorry, Packer fan. Probably gonna hate me on the Jay Cutler reference.